Yamunatiravanachari.
Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ashtasakya Vrinda ki Jai. Om Ajnanaatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanyamishwaram Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome everyone. Today we will discuss from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 4, verse number 9. So I'm curious, are there anyone here who is not familiar with Bhagavad Gita? I know this is a Sunday class as opposed to the weekly classes in which mostly the attendees are familiar with the philosophy. Is there anyone here who is relatively new? The reason I'm asking is so that I want to kind of drive the discussion based on how familiar the audience are. So it seems everybody here, they are familiar with the Bhagavad Gita and the process. So chapter number 4, verse number 9. So those who can, please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Janma karma cha me divyam.
Janma me
Janmanachamevidyam
Evam yo vetti tattvataha.
eva veti tattvaha.
Tyaktva deham punarjanma.
Yaktva deham
Tattva-deham punarjanma
Naiti mameti sojuna.
naiti mameti sodhya.
Amena.
Any of the devotees would like to chant, please?
Janma karma cha me divyam.
Janma karma cha me divyam
Evam yo veti tattvatah.
evam yaveti tattvaha
Tattvatah.
Yaktva deham punarjanma.
tattva-deham punarjanma
Punarjanma.
Naiti mameti so Arjuna.
naiti
Naiti
mameti
mameti
so Arjuna.
sojuna.
Janma karma cha me divyam.
Janma
Janma
karma cha
karma cha
me
me
Cha
divyam
me
divyam.
divyam.
Evam yo veti tattvataha.
evam
Evam
yaveti
Yo
yo
vetti
veti
tattvaha
tattvataha.
tattvatah.
Tyaktva deham punarjanma.
Tyaktva
tattva-deham
deham
punarjanma
punarjanma.
Janma
Neti mameti sorjuna.
naiti
Naiti
mameti sa
mameti
mameti so
Arjuna.
Arjuna.
sojuna.
I will next. Oh, Janma karma cha me divyam.
Janma karma cha
कर्म
me
च मे
divyam.
दिव्यम्
Yo vetti tatpataha.
Evam
एवं
एवं
यो
yaveti
यो
वेत्ति
वेत्ति
tattva.
तत्त्वतः
तत्त्वतः
Tattva dehi deham punar janmam neti.
त्यक्-
Tatta
त्यक्त्वा देहं
देहं
पुनर्जन्म
पुनर्जन्म
Punajanma.
iti mameti sarna.
नैति
इति
Neti mameti
मामेति
मामेति
सोऽर्जुन
sarjuna.
सोऽर्जुन
Janma karma cha me divyam.
जन्म
जन्म
कर्म च
कर्म
मे
च मे
दिव्यम्
दिव्यम्
Evam yaveti tattva.
एवं
एवं
तं
यो
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 वेत्ति
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 तत्त्वतः
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 Taktva deham punarjanma.
त्यक्त्वा
त्यक्त्वा
देहं
देहं
पुनर्जन्म
पुनर्जन्म
Neti mam eti sa arjuna.
इति
नैति मामेति
मामेति
सोऽर्जुन
सोऽर्जुन. Okay, we'll do word for word. Janma,
Janma,
birth.
birth
birth,
Karma,
karma
karma,
work.
work,
work
Cha,
cha,
cha
also.
also
also,
May,
may,
may
of mine.
of
of
mind
mind,
Divyam,
divyam
divyam,
transcendental.
transcendental,
transcendental
Evam,
evam
evam,
like this.
like
like
this,
this
Yaha,
yaha
yaha,
anyone.
anyone,
anyone who
who,
Veti,
veti
veti,
knows.
knows,
knows
Tattvataha,
tattvavaha,
tattvataha
in reality.
in
in
reality,
reality
Tyaktva,
tyaktva
taktva,
leaving aside.
leaving
leaving
aside,
aside
Deham,
deham
deham,
this body.
this
this
body,
body
Punaha,
punaha
again.
again,
again
Janma,
janma,
janma
birth.
birth,
birth
Na,
na
na,
never.
never,
never
Eti,
eti,
eti
does attain.
does
does
attain,
attain
Mam,
mam,
am
unto me.
unto
unto
me,
me
Eti,
eti,
eti
does attain.
does
does
attain,
attain
Saha,
saha
saha,
he.
he
he,
Arjuna,
Arjuna,
Arjuna
O Arjuna.
O
O
Arjuna
Arjuna.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Anyone would like to read the first paragraph of the purport?
I can go ahead, Prabhu.
Okay. Yeah.
The Lord descends from his transcendental abode is already explained in the 6th verse. One who can understand the truth of the appearance of the personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he returns to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting this present material body. Such liberation of the living entity from material bondage is not at all easy. The impersonalists and the yogis attain liberation only after much trouble and many, many births. Even then, the liberation they achieve, merging into the impersonal Brahma Jyotir of the Lord, is only partial, and there is the risk of returning to this material world. But the devotee, simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and activities of the Lord, attains the abode of the Lord after ending this body and does not run the risk of returning to this material world. In Brahma Samhita 5.33, it is stated that the Lord has many, many forms and incarnations. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anandam, Anantarupam. Although there are many transcendental forms of the Lord, they are still one and the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. One has to understand this fact with conviction. Although it is incomprehensible to mundane scholars and empiric philosophers, as stated in the Vedas, Purusha Bodhini Upanishad, Eka Eko Deva Nitya Leela Leelanurapto Bhakta Vyapi Hridaye Antaratma. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally engaged in many, many transcendental forms in relationships with his unalloyed devotees. This Vedic version is confirmed in this verse of the Gita personally by the Lord. He who accepts this truth on the strength of the authority of Vedas and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who does not waste time in philosophical speculations, attain the highest perfectional stage of liberation. Simply by accepting this truth on faith, one can, without a doubt, attain liberation. The Vedic version, Tat Tvam Asi, is actually applied in this case. Anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the Supreme, or who says unto the Lord, "You are the same Supreme Brahman," the personality of Godhead, is certainly liberated instantly, and consequently his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. In other words, such faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed in the following Vedic assertion. Tameva viditvati mrityum iti Nanya Panta Vidyate Ayanya.
Okay, maybe someone else can read the rest. 1 second. Okay, anyone else would like to read the last paragraph?
I can go ahead, Andy.
Okay, can read.
One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from death, birth and death, simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there is no other way to achieve this perfection. That there is no alternative means that anyone who does not understand Lord Krishna as a Supreme Personality of Godhead is surely in the mode of ignorance, and consequently he will not attain salvation simply. So to speak, by licking the outer surface of the bottle of honey, or by interpreting the Bhagavad Gita according to mundane scholarship. Such empiric philosophers may assume very important roles in the material world, but they are not necessarily eligible for liberation. Such puffed up mundane scholars have to wait for the causeless mercy of the devotee of the Lord. One should therefore cultivate Krishna consciousness with faith and knowledge, and in this way attain perfection.
Thank you. So this verse is from the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And in the Bhagavad Gita, this is where Krishna actually starts revealing his identity, and in this chapter number 4. So previously the relationship between Krishna and Arjuna, what was the relationship? What was Krishna's position before this chapter in relation to Arjuna?
He was his friend.
He was his friend, very nice. Anyone else?
He was his nephew too, right?
No, the cousins.
Cousin.
Yes, yes, very nice. They're cousins. Yes, there's one more answer before chapter 4.
Krishna became his Diksha Guru in chapter 2 already, right?
Yes, he became a spiritual master in chapter 2. So in the first chapter, cousins and friends, In the second chapter, Krishna became Arjuna's guru. And now in the fourth chapter, he's becoming God. Of course, he's already God. He's revealing his identity of God. And therefore, now you see in this chapter how Krishna is explaining about himself. And in the fourth chapter, you could say, this is when he's saying, I'm going to give you some secret. This yoga, I'm going to teach this ancient yoga that I already taught to sun god Vivaswan. And now I tell that to you. And Arjuna is like, give me a break. I mean, we are of same age. Okay, I accepted you as guru. But for you to say that you are also guru of sun god, this is a little bewildering. How is it? The birth of Vivaswan is superior to your birth. That means he's very, very senior to he's much, much older, thousands and thousands of years older to you, and even more than 1 million years. How is it that you gave this knowledge to sun god? Arjuna asks Krishna. And Krishna explains, like Srila Prabhupada is saying at the beginning of the purport, that his descent from the abode, transcendental abode, is already explained in the 6th verse of this chapter. This chapter has many, many important verses to memorize. There's devotees here, they are trying to memorize 108 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, which is very nice. And you'll find a lot of verses from this chapter that are very important for memorization. So the 6th verse, Krishna explains, Ajopi sannavyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swam adhishtaya sambhavami atmamaya. Ajopi, even though I am unborn. Now this word, he's saying my janma and karma. What does the word janma mean? We say janmashtami, like that. So what does the word janma mean?
Birth.
Birth.
Yes, janma means birth. And karma means?
Fruitive actions.
Activity, right? So his birth and activities, so both are transcendental. But did Srila Prabhupada translate it as birth?
No.
No, appearance.
Yes, he's calling it as appearance. This is a philosophical point. You may find in the word for word here as birth, but you see the translation, he calls it as appearance. So now, in the 6th verse, he made it clear, I am Aja, means I am unborn. But what about us? Do we have a birth?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Anyone?
Soul doesn't, right?
What?
The soul doesn't have a birth.
Yes, soul has no birth. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita va nabhuya. Right? How does that verse go? Nitya shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. So na jayate mriyate va kadachin. It has no birth and no death. The soul has no birth and no death. So Krishna taught this to Arjuna in chapter number 2, that we actually have no birth and death, but it's the body that transmigrates. And the body is like, what analogy did Krishna give for the body?
So, dress.
Yes, dress. The body is like the garments. Just like we, throw old garments and put on new ones. So similarly, the soul also takes on, it relinquishes, it gives up the old body and it takes on a new body when that body becomes old. So for the soul, there is no birth and no death. Now Krishna is also saying, he's saying he's unborn because he's the soul. But here he's specifically talking about his janma, his appearance, as we know as janma, someone comes into this world through the womb of a mother. And that's how apparently Krishna also appeared. So therefore we may think Krishna's appearance is also like giving up the old bodies and taking on new bodies. But Krishna is saying, no, my janma is something different. It's divine. And not only that, even my activities, these are also different. So there's a difference between the living entities coming into this world and going out, and the living entities' activities and Krishna's activities. So he's making a distinction between him and the general living entity. So now there's also another thing in here is anyone who knows this fact about me, anyone who knows about the divinity of my appearance and activities, that person will not have any punarjanma. He need not take birth again. Whereas in the second chapter, it's almost, the explanation is, the soul continues into another body, giving up the old garments, it takes on the new ones. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yevanam jera tata dehantara prapti dhirastatra namuhyate. Just like the soul is passing in this body through childhood, through boyhood, youth, and old age, and similarly it will go into another body. But here we see something different, is it doesn't need to transmigrate like that. So this is what we call as liberation, going back to Godhead, getting out of this samsara, getting out of this material world. And this happens simply by knowing Krishna. And how do we know somebody? If you want to know somebody, how do you know in this world?
By serving them.
Okay, you're giving a deeper answer. Let's step back a little bit. And suppose if I just mention you some name and you want to find out, what do you do?
Google their name.
You put their name.
Literature.
Yeah, sir, you put their name in the Google, right?
Search literature.
Yes, we have so many names here. You may even go to library if it's a famous personality to see if if there's anything about him. And if you know that person lives, say, in Connecticut, you may get your telephone directory and start looking up, right? So in this way, you will try to find that person's name. But if you just have the first name, it becomes difficult. Say if you have the first name, John, and you take the telephone book and looking for the name John, how many will you find, right, in the telephone directly? So many first names. Then you also need to know the last name. Then it becomes a little bit easier. But if you know where the person lives, the area, then maybe by area code it becomes more easier. So we try to find out some information by Googling or from news articles, this and that, or by some rumors, hey, this person, this person, we can try to find out. But the best way to know that person is to, like Sugopi was saying, by serving, by hearing from that person, please tell me about you, right? And that's the best way to know somebody, is to actually find out from that person. We may know a lot of different things by knowing from that person, or from somebody who knows him very well, who is a trustworthy person to that main person who we are trying to know about. So here Krishna himself is talking, speaking the Bhagavad Gita. So the best way to know Krishna is through Bhagavad Gita, right? But even that may not be enough to know. They may say certain things and stuff, but really in order to know somebody in a deeper way, like Sugopi was saying, we need to serve them, we need to have a relationship with them, then we start knowing them more and more and more and more. So we'll see different ways of knowing Krishna, as Prabhupada explains in here. And he's saying one who knows about Krishna, then they can be liberated. So now we may be wondering, we all know Krishna, then why are we not liberated yet? So that means we don't know Krishna completely yet. We don't know Krishna as he is. In here, tattvataha, the Sanskrit word tattvataha, in reality. Evam yo veti tattvataha, knowing Krishna perfectly, in truth, in reality, And that takes time to know him, to understand him. And there are different paths people follow, and Srila Prabhupada is talking about the impersonalists and the yogis. And they attain liberation after much trouble. In the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna puts this question to Krishna. There are two classes of people. Some people, they directly worship you, and some people, they worship the avyaktam, the unmanifested. And who do you think is better situated? And Krishna says, kleshodikatarastesham avyakta asakta chetasam avyakta hi katir dukkham dehavadbhiravapyate. Klesha adikatara. This is very, very troublesome. This path of unmanifested path, this impersonal pursuits of the impersonal reality, this is very, very troublesome. And Srila Prabhupada is putting the yogis and the impersonalists in the same bucket. What is the difference between the jnanis who pursue impersonalism and the yogis? What are their paths in terms of the process?
Yogis does the meditation and the Gnani try to increase the knowledge about God.
Yes. So the jnanis, they go by analysis, right? They analyze what exactly is spirit, what exactly is matter. They may study Sankhya, how this material creation is divided, and how the living entity is not any of these things. And you may have heard this thing, neti, 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 right? Na iti means not this, not this, not this. So you're pulling out and say, no, different elements of this nature. No, you are not this earth, you're not this fire, you're not this ether, you're not this water, you're not the microphone, you're not the harmonium, you're not the the candy you are eating. You isolate everything, and finally you figure out, who am I? And the yogis, their process is meditation, and it actually starts with there are different definitions of yoga. Krishna also speaks about yoga in a couple of ways. In the main process of Patanjali yoga means yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga means to the cessation of the activities of the mind. You stop the activities of the mind. You stop contemplating on anything material. But then you pick one object and then you try to meditate on that one particular object. So Patanjali Muni recommends different objects of meditation. You meditate on your Guru, you meditate on Ishvara, you meditate on something. And that's why we say sometimes, you meditate on your thumb, on a candle, on a lotus flower. But that idea is only given so that once you are able to get, focus on something, then you can shift the focus from that object to the main object, which is Ishvara. So in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the Ishvara, the Purusha and Ishvara, the words are also used. Purusha is applied to everybody, all the living entities. But specifically for that Supreme, he uses the word Ishvara and he uses the word Vishesha Purusha. So if you want to attain perfection, though, he says, Ishvara Pranidhanat Samadhi Siddhi. The perfection in Samadhi can be attained only by Pranidhana, by worshipping Ishvara. You may meditate on all these other objects, but you must come back to Ishvara. Those other objects are only temporary objects. Then you have to shift your focus to Ishvara. Then only you can attain perfection in Samadhi. So this Ishvara is also a Purusha like everyone else, but he is Vishesha Purusha. So now the yogis are also meditating, and then now the actual process, one second. It's okay. So then the Ishvara, sorry, my daughter was trying to help me with something. So because I made a PowerPoint, she's saying, why are you not sharing the PowerPoint? So the Ishvara is, as it is described, the Ishvara who is situated in the heart. This is the four-handed form of Vishnu. Now the actual Patanjali yoga process is personalism. If we do it properly, it leads to the personal conception of the Lord. But in general, the yogis, they tend to go towards impersonalism. So therefore, the destination of the yogis is also impersonal Brahmajyoti. So that's why you see here they attain liberation of much trouble, and then they merge into the impersonal Brahmajyoti. So they're meditating on the Paramatma, but Paramatma is not present in the spiritual world. We have to move beyond Paramatma to Bhagavan. So Paramatma exists in this material creation to take us back to the spiritual world, but in the spiritual world there is no Paramatma. So therefore, if they don't go to the aspect of the personal conception of the Lord, if they don't know Krishna in reality, in truth, then they go to the point of Brahmajyoti. But even from Brahmajyoti, if they don't make further advancement, they have a risk of returning to this material world. And this is mentioned in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, when Krishna was in the womb of Mother Devaki. The demigods, they used to come and offer prayers to Krishna situated in the womb of Mother Devaki. And one of the things that the demigods say is, they may perform so many austerities. Yenyara vindaksha vimuktamanina tvayasta bhavada vishuddha buddhayo arihya krichrena parampadam arihya krichrena parampadam. So by performing so many different austerities, they may go to their imagined parampadam of this impersonal Brahmajyoti. But patantyadaha, tataha patantyadaha, they'll again fall down. Why? Anadrita yushmadangrayaha. Because they do not worship your lotus feet, therefore they fall down to this material world. So because they did not perform devotion to Krishna, they haven't developed attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord, they'll fall down. So knowing Krishna properly, understanding Krishna properly means one who knows that, then they engage in his devotional service, right? I believe it's in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadhami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. In there, in one of the verses, I think it may be in that chapter, where he says, after they know him, they engage in his devotional service. Once they know Krishna, what do? We engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Then we realize he is our master and we are his servant. And through the process of bhakti, then we know him more. And even after getting liberation, we engage in his service. So, but the paths of knowing Krishna, either through jnana or through yoga, they are not leading to knowing Krishna in a proper way. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada gives another verse from Brahma Samhita, Advaitam Achyudam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayavanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhaktau Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Vedeshu Durlabham. Labha means to obtain. Even in other languages also this word will be used. Labha means gain. What gain do I have? So Durlabha means it cannot be obtained just by studying the Vedas. Vedeshu Durlabham. But how do we get Adurlabham Atma Bhaktau? We can know Krishna through the process of bhakti. Speak literally here, Adurlabham Atma Bhaktau means for a devotee it is easy to obtain. Or another way of explaining, like Prabhupada explains in another way also in different places, is it's easy to get Krishna from his devotee. Krishna is obtained from his devotee, but not just directly from the Vedas, directly from the book. We cannot get from the devotee who explains us the Vedas, we can get Krishna. One of them, Narada Muni, in the Bhagavatam you find him, the greatest devotee. Practically he appears in every canto, and every great devotee, every other great devotee you see in Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada Muni is the guru. Like Vyasadev, Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, the sons of Daksha. Many places you find like that. So Narada means one who gives Narayana. His name is, that's why he's called Narada. So the devotee gives Krishna. Through approaching a devotee, we can attain Krishna. So the empiric knowledge will not help. The whole idea of empiric philosophers is empiricism is through observation and experimentation. We may understand certain things through observation and experimentation, and through our observation we also interpret. For example, carbon dating, right? You take some fossil and you try to figure out how old that fossil is. Even according to scientists, it works maybe up to 50,000 years old. But the method they use is they use lots of extrapolation. Let's give an example here. Are there any children in the class? Anybody? I'm just curious. No? No children are listening to the class. So say if there is gulab jamun. Is there anyone here who likes gulab jamuns?
Yeah.
I think all of us are shy to say.
Yes.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah. So let's go to some exercise. Okay. Would you like one gulab jamun? And you say yes, that will be good. Then you take one gulab jamun, then it's good. Can you rate what good means? Say good means on the scale of 1 to 10, say it's 5. Then say, how about 2 gulab jamuns? Oh, very good. Then you get 6. How about 3 gulab jamuns? Say, oh wow, excellent, that's nice. Then you get more points. Therefore, I get these 3 data points. I say, Gita Mala Mataji likes 1 gulab jamun is good, 2 is better, and 3 is very, very nice. Therefore, 100 gulab jamuns will be excellent for Gita Mala Mataji after the dinner tonight. Right?
You mean a diabetic killer?
It's an interpretation, right? You cannot eat 100 gulab jamuns. Yes, even your taste, okay, 1 gulab jamun is good, 2 is good, 3 is good, but after that it starts decreasing. You cannot even take it anymore. So this interpretation that I take few data points and then extrapolate the information. So I got some fossils and I said, okay, based on some known information, this is 50 years old, this is 100 years old, and then I'm going to say this one is 5,000 years old. Based on some data points I gathered with the information that I know about something that's existed for 50, 20, 30 years, I'm going to interpret something that's 30,000 years, 50,000 years, 1,000,000 years, 1,000,000,000 years. So this kind of interpretation, this is not how things work. Now I'm in Connecticut. It's a beautiful place. Came from Idaho, this kind of desert, nice trees and everything. And if I just stay here for a month and I go back to Idaho and explain, Connecticut, it's wonderful weather. This is the temperature. This is how it looks. It's amazing. And this is how it will be perpetually. But that will not be true. Just wait for a few months, and when you see the harsh winters, it's a different scene. And if you take the example of a cockroach, the lifespan of a cockroach is very small, and it may tell its next generation of children in Connecticut, this is how it's going to be always. Or it may be a living entity that lives much more smaller. I don't know how long cockroach lives. But then it's totally a different season. So these interpretations that we are making by a little bit of data that we have, say that science has been so popular for a couple of 100 years, and now we are talking about knowledge, thousands and millions of billions of years, and say I have information. This is definitely prone to lot of errors. That's why there are so many scientific anomalies. which just don't work in all situations. It may be true in one circumstance, in one place, but not always true. So therefore, we don't depend on this process. So then the process to know this is through the bona fide spiritual master. Instead of making these speculations, we understand this knowledge of who we are, who God is, from God himself and from the devotees of God. And this is the way of understanding this information. And Prabhupada also talks about Tattvam Asi. And this word is very popular among impersonalists. Tat means that, Tvam means you, Asi means are. So you are that. That's what it means. So the impersonalists say, you are God. Tattvam Asi, you are God. Tattvam Asi, you are God. Are Soham, Aham and Saha. Aham means I, Saha means he. I am he, I am he. So, but here Srila Prabhupada is saying, this word Tattvam Asi, you should go in front of Krishna and say, Tattvam Asi. Krishna, you are that Supreme Lord. That Supreme Lord who is mentioned in the Shastras, that is you. It's not that we are telling each of us saying, you are God, you are God. No. These words can be told to Krishna. That's what Srila Prabhupada is giving in the purport in here. In another place he says, Tattvamasi, yes, we are that Brahman, but Krishna is Parabrahman. So we are spirit soul and Krishna is the supreme spirit soul. He is the Parabrahma. And then there is this beautiful verse from Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Vedahametam purusham mahantam aditya varnam tamasa parastat tameva viditvati mrutyumeti nanya panta vidyate yanaya. Vedahametam purusham mahantam. I know this great, this great person. Aditya varnam tamasa parastat. His Aditya Varna is so effulgent and radiant. Tamasa parastat, he is beyond this darkness of material world. Tameva viditva ati mrutyumeti. By knowing him, we will surpass this death. We will only conquer this birth and death by knowing him. This is exactly what Krishna is saying. By knowing him, by knowing me, punarjanma naiti. There is no other janma. So that means there's no birth. As soon as there is birth, then there is death. Jatasehi dhruvo mrityur. Anything that takes birth must die. So because then here we are crossing over the death means we are crossing over any future deaths. That means we will not have any more birth and death. Nanya panta vidyate ayanaya. There is no other way. There is no other way for liberation other than knowing Krishna. Without knowing Krishna, we will not be able to go to spiritual world. And this is what the Upanishads are saying. So Prabhupada is citing these wonderful sources on this particular verse. There's so much we can talk about this. And Prabhupada also gives this example many times, is by licking the bottle of honey. We will not understand what's inside the bottle. We have to open the bottle and taste the honey. So the process of jnana, this process of these speculations, this is like licking the bottle from the surface. And the reason Srila Prabhupada is saying this is also talking about the academic scholars. They say, I want to observe from outside so that I can think objectively. When I enter into it, it becomes subjective because I am within the experiment. I want to be outside the experiment and observe, and then I want to give the conclusion and knowledge. But sorry, spiritualism doesn't work like that. Spirituality doesn't work like that. Spirituality doesn't work from outside observation. What is that? the taste is in the pudding. Right? Unless you really taste it, you will not know. So licking the bottle from outside will not help. One must follow the process. Because the, what is this verse? Nabhaved grahyam indriyai. I forgot the first line. Ata Sri Krishna namadi nabhaved grahyam indriyai. Sevon mukehi jihvadav swayameva spuratyadaha. By these mundane senses, we cannot just understand Krishna. By the process of seva, when we perform devotional service, then we can understand. That's why this is called bhakti. Now the word bhakti, you see scholars translating it in so many ways, the devotion, the feeling inside, all these things. How does Srila Prabhupada translate bhakti, other than Sugopi? How does Srila Prabhupada translate bhakti? Anyone?
Service.
Devotional service, yes. It's not just a feeling, something that we have in our heart, but there's activity. In Upadesha Amrita also, Anushilanam. There is this activity. The word bhakti comes from a Sanskrit verbal root bhaj, and it has the meaning, bhaj means puja sevayam. Puja means worship, sevayam means service. Both elements are there. There's adoration, there's worship, but there is active service. Only through active service, the devotional service, then we will be able to know Krishna. We have to use the facilities that we have and surrender it unto them and engage in his service. Then we know him, and once we know him, then there will not be any more births and death. And this is why if we think about ourselves, I know Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but it's much more deeper. That's why there is this process of bhakti. Through the process of devotional service, the more we execute bhakti, the more we know. There's one time one devotee, after practicing for a long time, then he wrote a song in that he mentioned that all these days I was thinking this is about me, but I am not the person in this thing. Krishna is the main character. I'm just making Krishna as the hero in this entire movie of the bhakti, in this my life of devotional service. I am not the hero. Krishna is the hero, and I'm trying to facilitate Krishna becoming more and more prominent in my life. But a lot of times, it may become about ourselves, whether we are either proud or depressed. In both situations, it may become about us, but Krishna consciousness is about Krishna. And as we practice more and more, that Krishna factor becomes more prominent, and then we'll know more about him. And at that point, we will be ready to go back to Godhead, and will not have any more births and deaths. So I'll stop here. Are there any questions or comments from anyone?
I had a question, and I think you answered it by that last statement you just made. So most of us devotees technically know Krishna's appearance and his divine power. Even as he was a baby, we know he doesn't become God. He always was God and appearing. But that does not mean that all of us are qualified to go back to Godhead, which this verse says. So
Yes.
how do you reconcile that, from what this verse says? But I think your last statement just said that you really have to know Krishna, not
Yes.
not you, not make it about yourself.
Yes. And this will, as we have more experiences in life, and then we realize more. Obviously, you're a very senior devotee, and in the beginning, it's when we come to Krishna consciousness, the beginning, it seems like, even when you are initiated, it seems okay, that's a liberation, but that's a beginning of it. As we practice more and more, we realize, a lot of times how foolish our assumptions were, how we are trying to make it about us instead of Krishna. And there's a joke, one devotee is sleeping and he gets a dream. So he made nice sandwich and he offers to Krishna, and then he closes the curtain, he offers to Krishna, and then he goes back, he opens the curtain, and the sandwich disappears. Krishna, where is my sandwich? It's not here. What happened? Who took it? Right? Because we want to eat that sandwich, and that's how we are. We offer to Krishna, but then we also want the result of our activity, and we don't realize. And in this joke, it's in the dream. He wakes up and goes, "Oh, that's actually nice. Krishna ate my sandwich. Why am I freaking out?" So sometimes we want to offer ourselves to Krishna, this and that, but when Krishna really takes those things from us, we may not be ready for it. Krishna, not so soon. I have more things to take care of, before you take away everything from me. So like that, as we have more and more experiences, then we realize that I haven't quite fully grasped that Krishna is the master of my life. I still wanted to kind of take control. And we see in the example of Draupadi also, her surrender to Krishna, when, her sari was being pulled, she tried to protect herself. She's a Kshatriya girl, young girl, and she couldn't tolerate injustice. And the natural reaction is to depend on our own strength and believe in our own capabilities. And she tried to protect herself. It's kind of nothing wrong from a normal standpoint, but from a deeper bhakti perspective, it's like at that moment, maybe she should have immediately taken shelter of Krishna, but she struggled some time, and then when she figured out she cannot do it, then she called out for Govinda. And it is said Krishna was playing with Rukmini, he was playing chess, and Rukmini is like, Krishna, Draupadi is in trouble, why are you not going? Says, well, Draupadi is trying to protect herself. That's why I'm not going. But then, oh no, she's calling out Govinda, Govinda, and then he says, well, but she's holding with one hand, and only one hand she's calling out to me. But then Draupadi leaves both hands and calls out for Krishna, and Krishna immediately goes there. So the thing that we need to get out from here is, a lot of times the first thing that we take shelter of may not be Krishna. It's our intelligence, it's our wealth, it's the resources that we have in the form of our family and friends and staff. It may not occur to our mind that immediately it's actually Krishna. So until we close that gap, until it comes to the point of Krishna being everything in life, we cannot say, right, we are fully surrendered. We haven't fully understood that Krishna is the one who is maintaining us. Definitely I'm very far from it, but those are some of my thoughts, Mataji.
Yeah, that makes sense, but I still always get a little technical with this verse.
Yeah.
Could we say that if you really know someone, you have a relationship with them? So when we've reestablished our lost relationship with Krishna, then we really know him.
Yes, very nice, Jiva Mataji. Thank you.
Because you could say, oh, I know the president, but do you really? You know him when you have a relationship with him.
But this verse says we have to know about his divine birth, but that technically everybody knows, especially
birth
someone
and
who's a
activities,
who's, even a neophyte devotee knows that. But that in itself is not enough to go back to Godhead.
But there's qualifier, right? Birth and activities and tattvataha. That tattvataha is very deep.
In reality,
right?
Huh?
Yeah, in complete reality, right? Mm-hmm. And bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yeschasmi tattvataha. By the process of devotional service, one will know about him. Tato mam tattvato jnatva. After that, tattvato jnatva, again he uses the word twice, by knowing me in truth, vishade tad anantaram. Then you will come back to me. You execute bhakti, and then you will know me in truth. Having known me in truth, then you will come to me, right? So Krishna is saying bhakti is the process to know him, and that bhakti is different stages, sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, prema bhakti. So ultimately it has to come to that stage. However, the good news is, even though we practice sadhana bhakti properly, that Srila Prabhupada has given us, Prabhupada has guaranteed that he will take us back, right? So he will fill those gaps for us. Even if we follow the process that Srila Prabhupada has given strictly, then Prabhupada will, take us back to Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Any comments, questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanush Pranam. Thank you
Hey,
so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
That's Prabhuji. So the last verse that you quoted, I want to also mention before that, there is another verse where Krishna speaks about Tattvataha, where he speaks a little differently. This is 10.7 where Krishna says, Etam vibhutim yogam cha mam yo veti tattvataha so vikalpena yogena yujyate natra samshayaha. So he says that one who knows me tattvataha, factually, in truth, one who knows me, he engages in devotional service. So now
Yes.
he's using that in another way. First you know me in truth, then you do devotional service. Whereas what you said is, after doing devotional service, you know him in truth.
So that verse you cited, that is more like knowing his vibhutis, no?
That's right. But he uses that qualifier again, that before
Yes.
you,
Yeah.
like after you know me in truth, my vibhutis, my yoga, and then you will not have any other alternative other than, engage
Engage.
in my devotion.
Yes. Yes. So etam vibhutim yogam cha. So and in this verse the word yogam will be more like mysticism. The word yoga is so understanding Krishna's opulences, which he will later describe in this chapter and the next chapter. So this is the reason why pantheism is also important, right? Even the beginning steps in the Bhagavatam also this comes up in the second canto, first chapter. Even in our preaching, when we outreach activities, even these people who worship the nature, seeing God in these things, understanding his vibhutis, may not be knowing him in like as a son of Mother Yashoda and all these things. Just understanding his all-pervading nature and all these things, then we engage in his service. Then after that, then we'll know him deeper and deeper. I don't think this particular knowing here is the deeper understanding, right? So this is kind of understanding God is great. Yes, God is great is a very nice understanding. But then to have more, I guess like Mother Jiva was saying, to the point of having relationships. So that's how I would interpret these two, this one and the one in I believe that's in the 18th chapter.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you.
I also liked your statement that the sandwich thing. So in the beginning, even though we are offering something to Krishna, we're expecting some return, But
Yes.
but really in the final analysis, love is about not expecting anything in return. Even if you don't get anything in return, you still love Krishna.
Yes, yes. Yes, thank you, Mataji. Thank you all the devotees for your participation, so that we can continue with the next part of the program. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya 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 Gaura Jate Arati Kashoka Jaya छत्रधारा निकाटे अद्वैताशिनी वास छत्रधारा बसियाचे गौराचान रत्न सिंहासने बसियाचे सिंहासने आरती करे ना ब्रह्मा आदिदेव गाने आरती करे ना ब्रह्मा आदिदेव गाने नर हरि आदि करे चामर डोलाय नर हरि आदि करे चामर डोलाय संजय मुकुंद वासु कोशाधिकाय संजय मुकुंद वासु कोशाधिकाय शंखा बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करताल शंखा बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करताल मधुर मृदंगा बाजे परम रसाल मधुर मृदंगा बाजे परम रसाल शंखा बाजे घंटा बाजे माधुर मधुर मधुर बाजे 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 नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल इव बहु कोटि राजिनी वादन उज्ज्वल बहु कोटि चंद्राचिनी वादन उज्ज्वल काल देशे बना माला और झलमाला काल देशे बना माला और झलमाला शिवाशुक नारद प्रेम गद गद शिवाशुक नारद प्रेम गद गद भक्ति विनोद देखे गौरार संपद भक्ति विनोद देखे गौरार संपद शिला भक्ति विनोद देखे गौरार संपद भक्ति विनोद देखे गौरार संपद निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vishnupar Paramahansa Parabrajakacharya Satarasta Shri Srimad Divine Grace Labai Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupar Paramahansa Parabrajakacharya Satarasata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ravinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Lord Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai. Lord Nrsingadeva Ki Jai. Shri Shalagram Shilas Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Namaste, Namaste.
Okay, start.
Namaste, Namaste.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladaladaine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankanakalaye. Ito Nrsimha Parato Nrsimha. Yato yato yami tato Nrsimha. Bahir Nrsimha Hridayi Nrsimha. Narasimhamadim Sharanam Prabhade. Ganita Hiranyakashipu Tanudingam. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare.
Jaya Nrsimha Dev, Jaya Nrsimha Dev, Jaya Nrsimha Dev, Jaya Nrsimha Dev.
Jayo Nrsimha Dev, Jayo Nrsimha Dev, Jayo Nrsimha Dev, Jayo Nrsimha Dev.
Jaya
Jayo Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj.
Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada.
Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Shri Shri Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki, Bhakta Prahlad Maharaj ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining our Sunday program online this evening. And happy Ekadashi to everyone. Hari Bol. We do not have any program sponsors for today. So if any one of you would like to sponsor our program for today or for any of our upcoming Sunday programs, you can sponsor for only $125. And for that, you can contact His Grace Pyare Mohan Prabhuji or Her Grace Shiva Mataji at the number displayed on your screen. Thursday, September 17th marks the beginning of Purushottam Adhik Mas.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. It is said that our spiritual benefits can be increased during this time by observing the regular practices. So whatever we practice, we get the benefits are multiplied manifold by observing them this month. And we should engage in more chanting and reading during this time. Especially Bhagavad Gita chapter 15 is recommended. So for those of us who are observing Chaturmasya, we can suspend the observance for this time frame, and then we can resume again at the end of the Adhik Mas. Saturday, October 3rd, we are going to celebrate Vishnu Sahasranama. We're going to have a special program for that. Hari Bol. So mark your calendars. The program is going to start at 11 a.m. in the morning, and we will be shortly communicating further details about the same. A quick reminder of our regular online programs. You can also find the details on ISKCON of Connecticut website. A new addition is our morning chanting session starting at 5 a.m. in the morning. And we also have our Sri Finisher discussions going on every Saturday from 7 to 8. And all of these programs are running on the same ISKCON of Connecticut Zoom line. The details are displayed on your screen. Now we will have more chanting. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Oh, praise.
Hari Hari ki Jai. Thank you very much, Govind. And with that, we are going to have darshan one more last time before we conclude our program for today. Thank you very much again for joining our program. And we hope that all of you will join us again for our upcoming programs. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, the kid who did the chanting is Gopal. I think you said.
Gopal ki.
Gopal ki
You said Govind.
Jai.
Thank you.
I know. I was also thinking it looked like Gopal to me.
I thought my mistake too.
Wonderful chanting, Gopal. Very nice. You've surpassed your parents.
Thank you. All your blessings.
It was beautiful.
Thank you, Gopal. Hare Krishna.
Thank you everyone for joining today's Sunday's class. So we will meet again next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.